Been asked by a friend of mine to do a video on silicone sealant and using these Fugi tools, these spreaders. So I thought this would be an ideal opportunity to do that. So here's a big shout out from Marie. Hopefully she'll be able to seal her own bath, or more likely get her husband to do it after I've shown you how to do this. So I'm going to demonstrate on this wash basin. It's the same principle whether you're doing a wash basin or a shower tray or a bath, pretty much the same. So the tools you'll need, these are what I use anyway. I use these little picks. These are ideal for scraping silicone and things. Sometimes I have a little screwdriver, that helps. Obviously the set of Fugi tools, the spreaders, good quality silicone. This is nice stuff, this Dow Sil 785 sanitary sealant. You're best off, well, you need a good quality sealant, none of your cheap pound rubbish. And then some PVC solvent cleaner is ideal for cleaning up first before you seal. Also a knife, standing knife, and some knife blades. You'll need those. So the first thing I do is just try and carefully cut away the sealant, taking care not to damage the worktop, so just gentle. And then these little tools, you sort of just get in there, pull that out. So I would do that all the way around first, and then if you go along with the blade, you see you can carefully scrape any that's left over on the actual basin or the bath. Be very, very careful. It's not so bad on ceramic like this, but on an acrylic bath or shower tray, if you're not careful, you can gouge into the tray with the blade. So you just want to take your time, rub it off like that. See, now with silicone sealant, the key to getting a good finish, cleanliness. You need to spend some time cleaning it. I often say to people, if you're doing a bath, it can take probably 10 or 15 minutes to apply the sealant, but a good hour, sometimes even an hour and a half to clean it, to get it to the stage where you're ready to actually seal it. You want all the silicone out as much as you possibly can. Spend the time on it. Don't just do a little bit and clag over it with silicone, because that's just a bodge job. It needs to all come out. Cloth or a paper towel, and get this solvent cleaner, actually soften the silicone up a little bit, rub a little bit on there, like that. Then you find when you go over with the blade there, it'll bring some more off. Right, I've got the majority of the sealant off now. What you're going to do along here as well, where it meets the worktop and tiles where they meet. So I've got the majority of it off. What I'm going to do now is just sort of run along there with the blade against the tiles, so it's bringing more off. All the way along, like that. It's good to have a brush, scrape it off. Sometimes I can use a hoover, a vacuum cleaner, just to suck all that out. That's more important on a bath. It gets in it, sucks all the little bits that drop down the back. Once I've scraped it off with a knife, I'll open this bottle one-handed. Get the solvent cleaner. Rub that on again. Go back. Again, looking for little bits. There, all these little bits of residue. Need to get off all these little bits. Paint, that's not mine, but get that off. You want to end up really clean, no little bits. Any little bits like this will get dragged up in your silicone when you spread it. So cleanliness is the key. That's all the silicone cleaned off, all around the worktop, all around the basin, and I've wiped over all this from that solvent cleaner. Just leave it a couple of minutes, let it dry off. With it being a solvent, it dries pretty quick. Just let that dry off, and then we're ready to actually apply the sealant and spread it out. Okay, we're ready to start the sealant. I've already cut that off. You want to cut a slight angle, and you can see that there, very slight angle. That's how I do it. Probably about 5 or 6 mil diameter hole at the end for the silicone to come out. Obviously it depends on the size of the bead. With these Fugi spreaders, there's all different profiles. I like to go for just a normal chamfer, just like a wedge like that. I normally do either an 8mm or a 10mm. I'm going to do a 10mm on this one. I think it'll look about right, and probably a 10 or possibly even an 8. Now look at the 8. Yeah, possibly 8mm around the base, and probably a 10mm along the worktop. One thing I must stress with these Fugi spreaders, you can't just pick them up and spread them and get a really good finish if you've got no experience with silicone. It does take practice. It probably does give a bit better finish than just using a wet finger, but like I say, it's all practice. You can't just expect as a complete novice to pick them up and get a perfect finish. Right, when applying the silicone, less is more. Don't put loads and loads on. You want a nice bead. If you're putting it on and scraping more off, you've put way too much on. So I'm just controlling it, get a nice steady bead. Try not to get, that's not ideal, that little lump like that. If you can keep it smooth. Oh. Try and concentrate. Try and get it in one good swoop. As you go along, make sure it's pumping the silicone into the gap under the tiles, not just over the top. You want to fill that. So now we've got that done, we'll get the spreader. We're going to go for a 10mm. Now you put it on this, we can hold it more or less square because that's 90 degrees, but a bath will be angled, so it'll not be a 90-degree angle, so you end up having to angle the spreader a little bit more to compensate so it touches both surfaces. I'll explain that later anyway. So push that in and then just run it along. You'll find there's not enough, there wasn't actually enough silicone at that point for a 10mm wedge. In fact, we'll try a 8. That might actually be better now. Yeah, the 8's actually finishing better. I think the 10 would have been a bit too much. When you get your excess silicone, always keep wiping it off. Don't let loads and loads build up on the tool, else you're just going to drag it straight across your worktop or whatever you're doing. Don't worry too much about this, we'll clean that up later. So just follow along, keeping pressure against each surface. Yeah, as it builds up, clean that excess off. Now at this point here, this is a bit awkward with having the windowsill there. I think what I'll do is I'll go that way, we'll bring it along to meet that. Whenever you join the two together, you're always going to get a little bit like that. You can try and blend it in a little bit, don't worry too much. Oh, there's the bin. Right. Now what you'll probably see, some excesses spread up here. Don't worry about that. This nice little bit here, which is 90 degrees, that's ideal just to run along like that, and that'll bring that off. The good way to do it, if you're doing a long length, if you have to go all the way along, is position it like so, put your finger against the wall as a guide, and then just run along, and that'll keep it roughly the same distance off the wall all the way along. So I'll just go along there and tidy that up. I've got some on the tiles as well, I can see, so I'll do exactly the same, going back along that way. Like that. Again, as I'm running that way, I'm resting on my finger to keep the height. So yeah, just follow it along, that's keeping that height. Otherwise you'd be up and down, putting all gouges through the sealant. So I'm just tidy those little bits up. This end bit's going to be a bit more complicated having that windowsill there, so all I'm going to do with that is squib a little bit in and smooth it off with my finger. of spit on the finger and get that in there somewhere near. I might be able to tidy that up, scrape that bit out. This is where a little screwdriver comes in handy. You can probably even get in like that and pull that out. That's not bad. Once you got to that stage, I would always go over again, wet finger, a little bit of spit on, very light. I'm hardly pressing on there, I'm literally just skimming over the top. Plenty of spit on my finger. I know it sounds disgusting, but water doesn't work. Soapy water doesn't work, or at least not as good as good old spit. It's nice and light, hardly any pressure on there, just literally along like that. Not there. Is that done? It's not a bad finish. A little bit there. It's sitting not quite right, so you can lightly go over again. And that's it. That's pretty good. Okay, this little setup here is just to replicate a bath or a shower, something where the wall and the surface isn't at 90 degrees, as you can see. I've over exaggerated this just for demonstration purposes. So this replicates a Fugi tool. So if you were to hold it flat on one of the surfaces, there's obviously going to be a gap on the other one. So what you've got to do is angle the tool like that so that the gaps, so there's no gap, so that the surface is fitting tight to the Fugi tool. That way when you pull it along like that, it should collect the silicone and not smear it all up the walls. Corners are a little bit more awkward, so we start from the corner, pump it in like that, and we'll go along. I'll not do the full length, I'll stop there and I'll just show you how to do the corner. So again, we'll get our spreader, and we want to sort of go into that at 45 degrees, like that, not sideways, and hopefully that will almost meet up exact with that. There we go. I'll stop there just to demonstrate this bit. Now it has damaged our first little bead of silicone, unfortunately, but I'll put that right. So now I'll get that back in there at 45 degrees. Just pull it there. Trying to drop it and get silicone all over your worktop if you can help it. Right. So again, exactly the same procedure as before. We just want to tidy the excess off there like that. And again, into the top and off like that. And then the wet finger just in there like that. Very gently. The corners are very tricky. They're the most awkward bit. You'll never get them exactly perfect. You can mess around and mess around. Like that there, I would say, is about as neat as you want to get it. If there's a little bit under there, you can see that seems like it's sitting out very slightly. And go along with this Fugi tool again, just take that, just bring that along, and then spread it in again. That's better. Let's tidy that up. Onto the basin now. I'll show you a quick tip that might work if you will work. This is perfectly fine with this distance, but sometimes you'll find your basin or your sink's tight up to there and you just can't get your silicone nozzle in at the right angle, because you want it to be sort of 45 degrees into the corner of there. So all I do, you can buy fancy nozzles and things, but why bother? Just get the hold of your nozzle, bend it like that, and then you can get in and work your way along there. Obviously on this one I don't need to, so I'll straighten that back out. I can just get in. Seeing that, it probably would be easier with a little bit of a bend on. good example where I've put too much silicone on. Alright, just over, too much silicone come over there on the worktops. We'll use this square edge and I'll just run along like that. And it just picks it up. Lovely. Off there. There, let's tidy that up. I'll wipe over that bit with some solvent cleaner on a cloth just to get any excess off. That's ready just to spread off now. That's just done. Basin all sealed, worktop done. Just in the 10 rooms to go and check around and do the same again. Hope you enjoyed watching, and I hope Anne-Marie gets a bathroom sealed to this sort of standard. Just remember the key points are, don't expect to pick these up and get a professional finish. Always use good quality sealant such as this Dow 785, which is really good, and take your time. And cleanliness is the key. Take your time, clean it up, take your time spreading, and if you need to, just practice on some scrap bits of worktop or whatever until you're happy with the result.